Hey everyone, Rich Monroe here with B&B Investing Group. Hope you're doing well this week. Thanks so much for jumping on. B&B Investing Group helps investors, whether they're seasoned and have a lot of listings already, or if they're wanting to start a scalable business. And whether you're doing short-term rentals for acquisitions, master leasing, or managing other properties, we kind of tackle all the different nuances of that world. And so if you're interested in kind of learning more about the B&B investing program and want to kind of take action and get started, feel free to reach out to me directly. We can schedule a quick call and see if it's something that's a good fit for you or not. So I got a good friend of mine here on today with Danielle, and she's with Accessible Suites, and we're going to kind of be doing a deep dive on something that's very new to me, and I'm kind of anxious to kind of learn more about it. Those of you that are just jumping on, if you could throw a quick yes in the comments just to make sure you can hear us okay. And also feel free to throw some questions in there too. We're going to try to make sure we get any questions answered towards the end. So Danielle, thanks so much for jumping on today. Let's start with a little bit about your background and kind of what you've been up to.
All right. Well, my name is Danielle. I have been Danielle Reed. I've been a brain and spinal cord injury nurse for 20 years and recently left bedside and got into real estate around 2007 while I was there. Airbnb was not a thing then. And I totally missed the boat on that because I saw that the Shepherd Center provides 30-day housing for the patients that come into town that have, like, they're 50 miles away from home. And when generally the patients are there for at least, I'd say that I had 6 week to 3 month, 4 month rentals at the time. So their 30-day housing would run out and they would have nowhere to go. And so they would have to basically go get a 6 month lease and then go to Aaron's Rent to Own and do weekly rentals on furniture, or they would go to hotels, depending on how long their stay would be. And so I was like, man, if I could find some places really close to the hospital that maybe even some of them could walk to, because some don't have cars here and they're from a long ways away. I think I could furnish it and pay utilities. And if I could keep my prices less than a hotel, I think I would do pretty well. Mm-hmm. And so I did that and I did really well. And so I went ahead and I figured out arbitrage as well at the time. And went around, found some other places close to the hospital, furnished those and rented those out as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, I totally missed that Airbnb, like taking that to the public boat.
No, right. But you have an active, dedicated audience of folks that have that as a need. And, the Shepherd Center, basically people are kind of coming in and traveling to kind of get surgeries done. And they need to be there for recovery and be able to go back to the same doctor for follow-up visits. And so is that pretty common in most different types of hospitals, or is it only certain types of hospitals that have that as an issue? I mean, there's a lot of different things that need to happen, right? So in a lot of different specialties. So are there different niches, or kind of what do you see there?
So definitely brain and spinal cord injury has the long-term rehab component, but the other places that I would say that as far as short-term rental owners could look at is obviously you guys look at midterm or so, look at nurses and such, but cancer centers have people that need to stay for extended periods of time and bring their families in. I've rented to the Transplant Foundation of Georgia. I'm close to Emory as well. So I brought transplant patients in. They are required to stay close to the hospital after discharge for a certain amount of times. And it depends on what transplant they have. Certain transplants need longer time close to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So I got a lot of heart transplants. I think they needed like 4 weeks, and then they're one of the longest ones. So I've also had transplant patients in the house, but that's kind of been my box. And I can't support the renters that I have already. I need about 10 more houses. So, but I do look at the other. There's definitely other needs out there for handicap accessible real estate. Another big one is the paralyzed veterans. A lot of the veterans are aging and getting older, and so you can even look at models that are like bed by bed, room by room, bed by bed, and you can end up, you can charge more money for those or get money from the government that's coming in consistently. Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the other recent things, and I was going to ask you about it as well. My sister-in-law is at that weird age where she's not old enough yet to get Medicaid, and she's got a particular spinal surgery that she has to get done, and they're telling her that the only way to get it covered is to go to like a northeastern state to get it done. And so, obviously, there's I think it's almost a 3 to 4 month recovery time period. And so she's kind of looking at, well, she doesn't have any family up in New York. That's where we're originally all from, but she doesn't have any family up there anymore. And so what are the options for somebody that's in that predicament? Is there a platform like an Airbnb that kind of caters to handicap accessible, stays, or, how does someone go about looking for that?
There is a platform actually, but I don't really want to. She's kind of my competition, but
Oh, really?
it's okay. Beyond or Becoming Rentable I have not met the owner of Becoming Rentable, but I've been hearing about her. Mm-hmm. And so she does have a platform that is similar to Airbnb for handicap accessible rentals, and she is in a wheelchair. But I would say to talk to all of these patients that come in and out of the hospital in that kind of care setting, have a case manager. And the hospitals that are dealing with these people coming in are used to dealing with trying to find these people housing.
Yeah. So you talk to the hospital's case manager and they can.
And that's not always the case. I actually, I'm doing a feasibility study on an apartment complex. And I called the hospital that's close to them. And they're like, no, that's up to them to figure out when they leave. And I'm like, do you give them any kind of resource list? No. So there's a huge need just in general. And 1,000 of it, I could, anybody can come into this and I will hold your hand and help you through it. Cause there's just such a big need that, let's do it. It's just that situation.
So the house you have now is actually near the Shepherd Center in Atlanta?
It is near Shepherd Center. It's kind of on the edge of being close to Shepherd. I try to keep my places as close to Shepherd as possible, but this one in particular is close to the Brain Injury Center. Mm-hmm. So they have an off-center brain injury place. They have Pathways. And so I'm half a mile from Pathways in Decatur on Claremont Road. And so I'm close to Emory there as well. So I definitely looked into what other facilities could need this before I bought that house out there. But then another challenge really is keeping your prices affordable, because these people are in horrible situations. They didn't expect this to happen to them for the most part. You don't expect an illness. You don't expect something to pop up on you like this. So it's like, okay, I want to serve and not take advantage but how do I stay in my budget? And property taxes are astronomical, and it's just kind of a tough situation for everybody, which, affordable housing is a huge, huge issue in general.
Yeah.
But it's like walking the line of how can I help the most and make the most so then I can afford to keep helping more people.
Mm-hmm. So it's room by room rentals, so everybody's clear. And is it like a ranch style house typically you try to set it up as?
I do. So with an accessible property, I'm looking for places right now. I'm definitely on the hunt, but I'm looking for more single families so I can take people with kids and families and have more space for them personally. Mm-hmm. But this place in particular is a ranch, but you can do some upstairs if you have a place, plenty of room on the bottom floor, on the entry level floor to get in and to have your bedroom and to have your living space and to be comfortable. Because a lot of people do come in with families and they can go upstairs. So caregivers are in and out a lot of times. So, I can go over some things with you a little later about, what you want to look for in a property if you wanted to do something like this. Mm-hmm. And parking is one of those things where you're going to have caregivers potentially coming in and out, sometimes a couple times a day.
Now, is it like assisted living where there's like a licensing requirement or no?
If you were to go down the residential assisted living path, there are stipulations in that kind of way, but I personally do not do that. I do not want the liability of caregiving.
Mhm.
And so I do recommend them if they need a home health therapist or they need transportation. I'll say, hey, you can call so-and-so, or I'll give them people to call, but
Yeah.
I don't personally provide caregiving.
Okay.
I just
Um,
don't want the liability of it.
so it's basically just the housing that you're providing. Now, even though it's a ranch style house, what kind of retrofitting do you need to do? Or, if you're starting from scratch with just a regular home, what are the requirements to retrofit the home?
Okay, so I'll kind of start at the beginning with what you need to look for. Let's say if you were buying a new property, because if you already have a property and it is renovated, you're probably not going to be able to make the changes that you need. Like if you want to do this on a solid end of having a roll-in shower and things, it's going to be difficult to stay in your renovation budget or your total, like your ARV. Like it's just going to be difficult to stay in your price range if you have to take something that somebody else has made beautiful and
Hmm.
tear it out and change it to what you need anyway. So it's best to find properties that already need renovations. You have to look at parking when you come in. And that's another thing with Airbnb. They have I don't know what it's called. I do not list on Airbnb because I do so well outside of Airbnb, but I know that they have handicap accessibility and they have a checklist for that, but I was kind of looking at what they're providing now, and they're off to a good start, but they're missing a lot of the details of what somebody that would be in a wheelchair would need if they came into their property. So
Hmm.
you can check the box basically, and I would say just pour yourself into pictures.
Yeah,
If
I mean, I agree with you. I think the not only Airbnb, but a lot of the short-term rental platforms are not really doing a great job of categorizing and kind of being able to helping folks that are looking for that. I mean, we've actually had a few people in our properties that, for example, obviously when we've got a large number of properties, we can kind of cater to what they're asking for. So they might do an inquiry on one of our homes, and then we'll say, well, no, this one's not good for you, but there's another one that does. But even with that, we had a 3-bedroom ranch in Riverdale that we thought was going to be perfect for this family. They had an elderly son that was in a wheelchair, ranch style, everything's on the main level. So we're like, we're good. No, there's a 4-inch step to get in the front door. And a lot of these wheelchairs are very heavy, right? So the family members aren't able to lift it, even just over a 4-inch step. So I literally, before they were able to check in, had to get my handyman to run out there and go to Home Depot, get some boards, and kind of build a temporary ramp for them to be able to get in the property. And so there's little things like that you think you have it, covered, but you don't. You really don't. And I think there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made on the Airbnb platform in particular that allows you to know what kind of options you do have when it comes to accessibility like that, for sure.
Well, there's also little things that you can do, like you could get a portable ramp. And you
Hmm.
could use that over and over and pull it out when you don't need it. So they're low cost things that you can do to make your property more valuable in that way.
Hmm.
And that's where our universal design concept comes into play, where the universal design is looking at everything, like everything you could think of, they're looking at. So how many of these can I do? And then just be honest about what you have. And I would say on those platforms, if you could, if it say, I don't know how their descriptions are or how everything's laid out, but just say, hey, if you need this, call me. Let's talk about it. Let me know
Hmm.
what you need. Let me know what you have, because I don't want you to get there and then not be able to get in the door, not be able to get into the bathroom, or like, let's talk about it first so you're not dissatisfied and then give me a bad rating and kill the rest of my business in some ways. So just be upfront about it and try to communicate with whoever's coming into your place, make some changes and take a lot of pictures. And it looks like they have places that you can add all of that in. But then when they have like this generic design, make your doorways wider. Okay, well, how much wider?
Yeah.
What's going to work best for everybody? What do I do? And so those are some things with the short term that I would say is there's some very low cost things that you can do to increase the value of your property and expand your rental pool, as long as you're just
So
honest about it.
yeah, so one example is a temporary ramp, maybe a temporary chair for the shower if it's a walk-in shower.
Shower
What are
chairs
some
are
other?
really easy. You can have a
Yeah, shower
bathtub
chair.
even. Yep, you can have a bathtub with the shower chair.
Okay.
So this, I'll kind of start and I'll get into that. So let me tell you what you should look for if you're looking for a property that would be, maybe you have one already and say, oh, okay, maybe I could make this accessible or whatever. But
Hmm.
parking on, when you drive up, parking is really important. Do they have room to get out? Is there a clear path up to wherever they're going? Because a lot of times you get out and they're on gravel or little pebbles. Well, it's just little pebbles. It's not that big a deal. Well, for some people it is.
Yeah, I'm amazed at
Almost.
how heavy those chairs are too, because it'll just dig right into it and you're stuck, right? I mean,
Oh, yes, yes.
yeah,
And that's another thing you have to consider is the weight of those wheelchairs when you're bringing them into your house. Is your house, can it structurally support a small car basically driving back and forth across everything
that's a great
nonstop?
point. That's a great point. That's something that I probably wouldn't have thought of.
Every time we look at a house, we have to go underneath and how are the joists laid out properly? They're going to need some extra bracing. And it's all simple to do. You just have to be aware that it needs to be done because you don't want to set up a space that's unsafe for your renter coming in.
That would be a horrible experience with the review. Yeah, our son fell through the floor as soon as we got in there. That would not be good at all.
Yeah, kind of like putting quartz on a long, like, okay, can this support this underneath my house or a baby grand piano or things like that? Like that's going to be rolling all over your floor. So
Hmm.
definitely think of things like that. But you make sure your parking is good. If it's going to be a situation where, if it's a vacation rental, it's a different ballgame because you're not going to have people coming in and out of the door to care for them. If it's
Right.
a mid or long-term rental, then you potentially could have caregivers coming. How many people are in and out of your parking? Most places have 36-inch doorways from the exterior to interior. But then how are you maneuvering on the inside of the house? Can you get around? Are the hallways wide enough? They need to be at least 36 inches, and that can be kind of tight at times when you're trying to turn to go into rooms and places as well. 32-inch on the inside is what I would say to be the minimum on your door. Some people can't get into that either, but 32 inches at least on your doors. And there's some hinges that you can get. So you can replace your door hinges, and I don't know exactly what they're called. I really should, but they are like shaped like they have a 90-degree angle, and so they pull your door all the way out, and so it
Hmm.
gives you 2 inches of extra clearance on the sides.
Oh, wow.
And those are
Okay.
the little things I'm talking about that you could, just make some of those changes. The
Hmm.
other main thing I would say to look for is to have a lot of bathroom space. They need at least 5 feet of space to move and turn and such in the bathroom area. That's a really important place. A crazy mistake we made, which I don't know how I did this, but we put shower chairs that we mounted to the walls. And I'm like, oh, you can lift them up and then they can roll their own shower chairs in here. And then they can roll their own shower chairs over the toilet and they can do all this. And this is amazing. Well, if anybody's in there by themselves, they can't reach the water unless they're in their shower chair. So
Mm.
I have no idea why I didn't think of that because we had, the walls pulled out. So it's a learning game and things happen and you just take it and teach other people from your mistakes. But
So
those
what
are
would
the
you have done? What would you have done differently in that case? Put the do the plumbing so that the on and off switch is closer to access from that location.
So it's in the middle instead of at the end of the shower that it usually is with the shower chair here. And my whole mentality, I was still actually very inpatient, very bedside nursing. Is my thought of all of this was everybody's going to have a caregiver and I want to give them plenty of room to get around.
Yeah.
Because when you roll into a 36-inch, roll-in shower, that doesn't leave very much room for caregivers. And can they reach the soap? That's a big issue in hotels. A lot of times everything looks beautiful and then they can't reach the soap things on the wall because they're too high.
Right.
And having a shower handle they can move and takes off and has a 60-inch hose. So you have long hoses.
Makes sense. And
Mhm.
so back to, so I guess the objective here is it's great to understand all these slight nuances that you can accommodate for in your regular short-term rental, so that you can kind of be able to attract and have that be available for folks that might be looking for it. But when it's specific to your business, um, so what's your average rental room rate for, and what's the average stay for the folks that are coming in?
My average stay has increased over time. When I started, people were saying they were running their rehab courses. It was like a couple months, 3 months, 4 months stay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hitting up the outpatient people because I went to handicap accessible, and I was just focused on that population. But now my primary client right now is home health agencies and workman's comp. And so when I'm dealing with them, their stays are increasing because those patients are generally waiting on, and I'm so in a mentality to say patients, I don't mean to say patients, but they stay longer because they're waiting on their houses to be built,
Mm-hmm.
and they need an accessible home to go. Need to go home, to an accessible house, and it's just not built yet, or they're waiting on their cases to be settled. So they're sitting there sometime. I mean, the guy that just left, I've had an 18-month, and then right behind him, I had
Wow.
a 13-month.
So when they're there that long, how are you working on, cleaning of the common areas? Um, is everyone getting along with the shared kitchen and shared bathrooms? I mean, I'm sure there's potentially some drama that can come up through that. And then who do they reach out to? Do they reach out to you, or kind of how does that work?
So I am small, and so they reach out to me, and I haven't had very much drama about kitchen time. These people have, when they go into my house, they all have their own entrances, and they have their bed, and they have a couch and a dining room table, and like their own washers and dryers. That's a really big thing just in my population, because you don't want.
So wait a minute. They have their
I
own
do.
washer and dryer. Oh, you
I
do.
do. I do.
Okay.
And it's because I'm spinal cord injury specific. I really have, like, that's the bulk of my population. So I do give them their own washer. I started pad split before pad split, by the way, too.
No, it sounds like it. Okay. So what are they, like a small stackable unit, or?
Well, stackables are tough. I do have stackable units because, again, I was focused on caregiving and such. In the space that I had, I wanted to give them washers and dryers, and I didn't have the space to lay them out. Ideally, you would take a front-loading washer and dryer and you put it on a pedestal, and that would be the best thing for somebody to use if they were independent.
Got it.
But yes,
Makes sense.
mine are stackable.
Okay. And
I
then
do have a platform raised up so they can reach in, and they can. I mean, I've had some independent people come in and they do okay.
Okay. And then, so you've got people coming and going, and that's a long period of time for them to stay there. Are they paying weekly, monthly? Are they doing month to month? What does that typically look like?
So the way that I do it to just save myself from paperwork and drama is I give them a 12-month lease on the front end. And I give them, there's a clause in it that says they have 7 day, with a 7-day notice, they can leave at any time. So I don't have to go back and do any paperwork for the most part. And then it has the terms of what happens if they stay longer and renegotiation, if that's what we're going to do or whatever. But I've been giving them 12-month leases with a 7-day notice to get out so they can leave at any time. I have not had too many short terms. I have had, before COVID happened, I had several 3-day evaluations at the brain injury clinic up the
Mm-hmm.
street.
Yeah.
So those guys would come in and those would be daily rates, but I base it on a daily rate so I can still keep in their head that this is a short-term rental. They're going through this for a short amount of time is what I kind of am keeping in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
So I compare their rental rates to hotel rates, or I'm like, well, we're still under that and you're not getting all of that here and you don't have a backyard. And so I'm keeping that going in that kind of way. But I charge monthly. And the thing that is happening is handicap accessible real estate is so scarce
Mm-hmm.
that when something opens up, then a home health agency or a therapy company, they will come in and they'll sign a year-long lease, and they'll pay
Wow.
your vacancy rates because they know they're going to have somebody right behind that person. And they also know what workman's comp is paying and what they can charge them. So my rental, I have a room that's $2,400 a month, and he takes that room, and it's a 2-bedroom unit, but he takes that and he bills in workman's comp probably $3,600 is what I heard last. I don't know if that's changed for him over the year or so, but so they get to make passive income on my properties too, which then I go and I'm like, hey guys, do you want to partner with me and do some rentals? They're like, no, for what? I don't want to buy any houses. I can just use yours. I don't need that risk. I don't need that liability. I'm busy.
So they're getting additional. Are a lot of them doing that, where they're just kind of taking in more than what, and then paying less than what their stipend
I
is
don't
for the month?
know. I'm not sure. I just know, like, from the personal stories that I've heard and what's happening when I talk to my case managers and the difficulties they're having finding
Yeah.
properties for their people.
So what's a good average for 1 bedroom on a monthly rate? What are you getting for each bedroom per month as an average?
My small 1-bedroom is $1,200 a month, and I pay
1,200 a month.
utilities. Yep. So for
And
my
then,
longer term, I'm at $1,200 a month. I have one that I'm at $2,000 a month. I have another one at $2,400 a month.
and then how many bedrooms do you have in the house?
I have 4 total bedrooms. So the $2,400 unit is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And then the other end, that's still $2,000 a month, has space, has their full size sofa and their dining room table. And you can have a king, or I pulled this out so he could have his hospital bed and such, but I had room for a king size bed, a queen size bed, the sofa, and a small dining room table.
And I don't think I caught how you're handling the cleaning. Is the cleaning on their responsibility and that's it?
It's
Or
their
do you?
responsibility.
Okay.
I clean in between renters, and I go and summer clean, spring clean the kitchen up, and do those things, do those deep dives when in between people. But for the most part, I just stay out of it and let them handle it.
All right. And so let's talk a little bit about how you're helping other folks either kind of get involved with this or get started with it. Do you have like a consulting option that you're providing, or kind of what? Let's talk a little bit about that.
So when I was at Shepherd, I actually left when COVID hit. COVID was an interesting thing. And that's kind of when my midterms went to long terms. And so I pulled out of the hospital and kind of started focusing more on the accessible real estate. So now I've went all in on that. And so what I'm doing now is I'm doing one-on-one consulting, and I'm working on my course to open it up to one-to-many. But the main thing I've been doing is going to multifamily unit owners and doing feasibility studies. And let me check out your place first to make sure this is going to work. And then let's figure out how much traffic you're going to get. How much can you support? So looking at the big picture of the community and how many units it makes sense for them to change, and then helping them with the design and working with their contractors or their architects or whatnot, and basically going from fixing to filling with them. And then giving them a safety certification at the end. I think safety is really, really important. And I think it's really important for all of your short-term rentals. I'm especially focused on it because of the population that I'm serving. But I think it's super important for everybody to really pay attention to safety. So I'm working with a company that helps me with safety inspections, and that's part of my the deal that I give them when I work with them is you get a check. And I can't say it's a certification because you can have your fire alarms, everything can be perfect, and you can walk out and somebody could take the batteries out of your fire alarm, and then your place isn't safe anymore. So you can't exactly get a certification, but
right. I was going to ask as well, are there any special insurance requirements?
I do not have any special insurance requirements. However, I was at a short-term rental conference recently, and she seemed to think the insurance company seemed to think I needed special insurance.
Of course they did.
I don't
They
know.
look at it as another line of business.
But I've been very honest with my insurance company about what's going on. And I
Right.
have my insurance at my rental is cheaper than at my primary.
Okay. Okay. But there's no additional, do you have general liability like in place for your legal entity?
I do. So legal entity wise, that has been, okay. So I recently figured out when I was telling you earlier a while back that I have not had any bad renters in this market. It has been absolutely beautiful for me the whole time I've been there because everybody's so thankful to have a place. And since I've moved more into the workman's comp space, I'm getting people who are really angry that this is happening to them. And it's a little bit more of like a mentality of being like, you owe me. And so like recently I had somebody decide that he wanted his girlfriend's dog there. And so told me that it was his emotional support dog. And he sent me a certification from somebody that this was his girlfriend's emotional support dog and it had to be there. And it expired in like 6 days and told me I needed to contact his attorney because they were going to take the house from me if I didn't let them have this dog there.
Wow.
And so that got me thinking about entities and where I'm at. So I actually have recently brought a legal team on and we have a holding company now and we're putting things in their own LLCs that are not in our name and moving them. That probably shouldn't be something I say on here, is it? But
no, you're good.
It's really important to keep yourself safe in this business.
Yeah. I mean, we've really had some bad situations. A lot of us have with this whole, service dog movement, right? So, Airbnb basically it doesn't matter. It could be, they can just say that they have a service animal. It could be an alligator. It doesn't matter. You have no say so as a host. And if you turn them away, they can cancel without a refund. And they do that over and over again. So they used to be able to ask for paperwork to support it. But now it's just, they can just say that and you don't have any recourse. You can't even get more cleaning fees or pet deposit or any of that. So yeah, we've had some recent incidents as well that have not been good. We've kind of lost money because if they get pissed off about it, they just leave, and you have to give them a full refund. So it's just bad.
And there's a lot of extra cleaning. And a thing that I try to tell my people, I tell them is, you guys a lot of you have respiratory issues and have trouble. Some things don't work below a certain level. And I mean, I have infection control to consider here as well. And some people are allergic to these animals. And it's yeah, but this is my dog. I want in here.
No. So I'm going to test this out. I'm going to show Caroline's question.
Okay.
So I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So is this right? Sounds like these one bedrooms are huge, while plumbing for washer dryer separate entrance, shared kitchen and bath. What's the ranch house square footage?
They're not shared bathrooms. They all have their own roll-in showers and such. So they're definitely all separate on that. But my square footage of my house is 2,500 square feet.
Okay. So nothing
crazy.
Really,
it's just the way it's configured.
All right. So I would imagine you're making use of closet space and things like that.
Well, they actually need extra closet space because they have a lot of equipment. And so there'll be Hoyer lifts. I don't know if you guys know what that are, but they're lifts to get them in and out of bed and lift them up and such. And they take up a lot of space. So I considered that with the build as well. And so we cut off part of the dining room so we could pull that into the bedroom behind it and make that a bigger closet space so they would have storage for their equipment. And then we created an additional closet in one of the bedrooms, again, so they'd have space for their, to store their medical equipment. So yeah, we definitely need extra closet space.
So if I do a feasibility study on where all these hotspots are for these hospitals and basically just go on a rental arbitrage hunt, right? I mean, just start renting properties in the area. It sounds like I can get away with doing that without doing any major construction. Am I missing something?
What you're missing is you are going to still have to do some renovations to be able to do this in this kind of way. And, this is another thing that I start out with everybody is all disabilities are not created equal.
Yeah.
So when you say handicap accessibility, well, there are handicaps. I mean, they're expecting a wheelchair accessible house when they check the box of handicap accessible, and that's just not how everything like works in general. And so since all disabilities are not created equal, there you have to be really specific about what you're offering. And I would say no. Yes. Okay. Wait. You could go in. Let's go through this list and make the changes that we can make. And then what can you do with that? But you really do need a stepless roll in, like no curb, curbless shower.
Okay. So like a better case scenario, if I'm buying something distressed and it's pretty much a full gut rehab and I'm starting with a clean slate, then it's a little bit easier to kind of layer in those things like a shower where you don't have any steps. It's just kind of, seamless, because you're starting from scratch. You've got a clean slate and you can kind of build that into it. And that really doesn't affect your cost or anything. As a part, if anything, it's cheaper because you're not doing a step, right? You're just doing a flat surface to get in.
And a channel drain, different sloping.
Right. Yeah.
And ultimately, like I also help people, a big thing that real estate investors will say is, I do not want to make this property handicap accessible because what do I do when I want to sell it? I can't, you're shrinking my market. And so the universal design concept is a little bit different where it's a little bit discreet. And so the biggest things are grab bars in the shower, let's say. And so what I tell everybody is, look, let's also consider adaptable when you're building anything, because everybody's getting older. The population in 20 years of like the increase in the elderly population is going to be pretty significant, and
Right.
they're going to have trouble finding a place to go. And we are all getting older. We could all have something happen to us at any second. And so it's really important to say, okay, I'm already doing this. How about my shower's already pulled out. How about I consider this at least in one bathroom and put some bracing, put some boards behind it, whether it's full, if you don't want to pay for all the wood all the way around or whatnot, then get some blocking and take pictures of where it is. So you can pop some grab bars in whenever you need them. And then I would say, okay, keep a couple extra pieces of tile because you're going to have holes in your tile from putting these grab bars in. Saw them out and put a couple new pieces of tile in if it comes down to selling it and you need to change it like that.
Yeah, I mean, on our most recent rehabs, like it's kind of a trend. There's no need for like the tub anymore. Like nobody really wants a tub. It's always a stand-up shower. So you might as well add those additional things in there to have it be, like you say, universal. So I like that. It makes sense. All right, so we're getting pretty close to the end. I think there's one other question or a follow-up question. What's the square footage of each bedroom? I don't think the bedrooms aren't really any larger than a typical 2,500 square foot house, right? So,
well, I do not have a living room, so let's spread that space out into bedrooms.
So you're doing a similar model like pad split. You're making use of the living room because it's your common areas are the kitchen and the bathrooms, and that's it. And so
kitchen and dining room are the common areas. And I also have a bedroom upstairs. So it's like a lofty kind of like, the rooms that are shaped like this, where you make the attic, you turn it into not a loft, but a bedroom. And so is what I use that for is if anybody has company, then they have an extra bedroom that, this doesn't work full time, but first come, first serve. You guys are welcome to use this bedroom anytime you want. So you can have guests or have people come in and visit or whatnot if they need another bed to sleep in.
Makes sense.
So I do have that, but everything's pretty spread out. 800, 900, 800 square feet or so in a couple of the bed. I don't know. I haven't measured them out exactly. I have it written somewhere from some point in the past that I needed to give that to somebody, but.
Right. All right. And so you're able to prepare like a special checklist for our members, right? And so what we're going to do, guys, after the live and on the recordings, we're going to add in the comments a link where Danielle's she's going to prep kind of it's one page or a 2 page?
No, it's probably like 5 or 6 pages as far as the checklist. So it gives you a lot of options and a lot of things to think about. Because it's the same thing as like if you're redoing your kitchen, then pull out drawers and on the bottom, and that makes a huge difference. So it's just like a big giant list of possibilities.
Very
You
cool.
know, take it, leave it, do what you want to do with whatever.
And then we'll also, on that link, you'll have contact information if folks want to reach out to you to get more details about how you can help them if they want to move forward and look at a project with you together.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm just
Awesome.
accessiblesuites.com, so I have phone numbers, and I'm new, definitely, since I'm so overloaded with the clients that are coming in for my rental. I'm working on the foundation of the company as far as helping a lot more people, because I'm kind of at my cap.
So that's your future growth plan, is branching out and sharing your knowledge and helping others tap into this.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Helping create more accessible places.
Very cool. Very cool. I think we got one final comment here. Not sure who that is. I can't really see the name on the screen here, but thanks, Danielle, so much. This has been very informative. Not only for me, but for all our members. This is not something that's mainstream. And we usually like to kind of talk about different niches and different nuances of the business. So I appreciate you taking the time today. And we look forward to checking out that 5 or 6 pages list of things that we should be thinking about as we're adding more properties and doing more rehabs and such. So thanks so much, everybody, for jumping on. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys. We're not going to do a Facebook Live next week. It'll be Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody will be eating turkey by then. We'll be back the week after that. And so, feel free to jump back into B&B Investing Group. And thanks, everybody, and have a happy holiday. Thanks, Danielle.